The man on the balcony was of average height and normal build.
He was dressed in a white shirt with no tie and unpressed brown gabardine trousers.
His hair was thin and brushed straight back. He had a big nose and grey-blue eyes.
The time was 7:30 on the morning of June the 2nd.
The city was Stockholm. The year was 1967.
The man watched an elderly white-haired woman as she stood outside the baker's in the building opposite. She fumbled for a long time in her handbag before getting out a key and unlocking the door.
At the same moment, the door to the flats above the baker's opened and a little girl came out into the sunshine. She looked about 8 or 9.
The man on the balcony stood quite still and watched as she walked down the street. Her fair hair was tied in a ponytail and swung against her back. When she got to the end of the block, she turned a corner and disappeared.
What are you doing here?
Looking for Melander.
He's in the lavatory. He's always in the bloody lavatory.
What's wrong with you?
What do you think?
I have no idea.
Don't you read the newspaper?
I do.
Well, then you should know we've had another mugging.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Gets whacked on the head from behind. Loses 140 kroner.
Yeah.
Still in hospital, remembers nothing. That's the 8th one in 2 weeks.
I know.
This last one, Civil Patrol was right there about 10 minutes before it happened. Did you know that too?
And where were they when this happened?
Drinking coffee at the station. It's the same every time. We've got a policeman hiding in every bush in Varnadis Park, then it happens in Vossa Park. If we've got police in Varnadis and Vossa, then he turns up in Liljon's Wood.
Well, there's only one way to get him then, isn't there?
What's that?
Disguise yourself as a defenceless old woman.
Gunvald Larsson was 6'3" and weighed 15.5 stone. He had shoulders like a heavyweight boxer and huge hairy hands.
He stared at Martin Beck.
Martin Beck lit a Florida cigarette.
Is this a joke to you?
Not at all.
At that moment, Frederick Melander came into the room. He had a pipe in his mouth and a telephone directory in his hands.
Hello. Hi.
Arvid Jonsson. Found him in the telephone directory, but it's no good calling him. He died in April.
What are you two up to?
Nothing.
Martin had forgotten the name of someone we tried to nab 12 years ago.
But you remembered it.
Yeah.
How the hell can you remember the name of a man called Johnson for 12 years?
Melander shrugged. Melander never forgot anything. He was like an elephant who was always in the lavatory.
Hello, First Division Duty Officer speaking. Sorry, madam, what did you say? Yeah, I'm Detective Inspector Larsson. And your name is? And what can I do for you? There's a cat. A cat on your balcony? Oh, a man, sorry, yes, I see. And what does he look like? Thin hair brushed straight back. Big nose, yeah. White shirt. Average height, brown trousers, blue-grey eyes. Sorry, so you mean he's standing on his own balcony? On the other side of the street? What? And how can you tell that he's got blue-grey eyes if he's on the other side of the street? Binoculars, huh? He stands there all day and all night. So, but what do you want me to do about it? Madam, there's no law forbidding people to stand on their own balconies. Yeah, well, I'm a busy man, you know. Got crimes to solve, muggers to catch. Do you read the newspaper? Hello? She hung up?
I can't imagine why.
The mugger had been in the park for over 2 hours observing people. He'd seen a smart young middle-class couple practically having sex in the most secluded corner of the park. He'd seen 2 plainclothes policemen decide that there was no sign of the mugger and that they ought to go and drink coffee.
And now it was 9 o'clock and the mugger sat on a bench, waiting.
He caught sight of her as soon as she entered the park, and he knew at once what path she would take. A dumpy middle-aged woman with an overcoat, an umbrella, and a large handbag.
With his left hand he drew a red bandana over his face.
He was still a yard behind the woman when she turned around, saw him, and opened her mouth to scream.
Unreflectingly, he struck her across the face as hard as he could.
The woman dropped her umbrella and fell to her knees, clutching her handbag with both hands as if she had a baby to protect.
A quarter of an hour later, he was home. The time was 9:30 on the evening of the 9th of June, 1967, a Friday. 20 minutes later, it started to rain.
It rained all night long, and in the morning, 2 drunks discovered the body of a dead girl behind the water tower in Varnadis Park. When Lennart Colbert reached the scene of the crime, The doctor had already examined the body.
Well, strangled. Raped too, maybe.
When?
Yesterday. Evening sometime.
Do you think it happened here?
There's no reason to think it didn't. But the rain doesn't help.
Bloody hell.
Colby,
Larson,
if they take any footprints, they're probably mine. I was here last night, soon after 10.
because of the mugging.
Well, you heard about it.
I did.
Old lady just shut up a kiosk. The entire day's takings in her handbag. She must have been lying here then, the girl.
Suppose she must have been.
Is it a sex crime?
Yes.
So probably no connection with the mugger.
Unlikely.
That's what I thought. Christ. Sickening.
Yes.
For once, Colbert was in agreement with Larsson. He looked at the girl's wooden-soled sandals that were lying on the slope. He thought of his own child, not yet born, how this child would look in 9 years' time. He could hardly bear it.
Where is he anyway? Back.
Motella.
What's he doing there?
Fishing.
Fishing?
Back Sunday.
The previous evening, a woman named Mrs. Karin Karlsson had reported her daughter Ava missing. She'd taken a photograph to her local police station. There seemed to be no doubt over the girl's identity.
Somebody had to tell Mrs. Karlsson what had happened. Somehow the task fell to Colbert.
The woman who answered the door was dressed in a brown cotton housecoat. Her fair hair was tousled as if she'd been pushing her fingers through it over and over again.
Are you a policeman?
I am. My name is Lennart Colbert.
Have you found her?
Can I come in?
Through a door, Colbert caught sight of a blue-painted shelf with books and toys.
Do you mind if we sit down?
You sit. You sit down and I'll stand.
Okay.
What's happened to her?
Where's your husband today?
He doesn't live with us, we're divorced. Where's Ava? Where is she, do you know?
I'm very sorry to tell you this. Your daughter is dead. I'm so sorry.
We were going to the country.
Sorry.
We were going away for a little holiday.
Have you got anyone who can come and be with you? Your parents, maybe?
No. No, I don't want them here. I don't want anyone. How did Ava die?
We think she was murdered.
Murdered?
Yes.
Is there any chance that you've made a mistake, that it's someone else, that it's not her?
No. Who's your doctor? Mrs. Carlson? Who's your doctor?
Dr. Strom. We saw him on Wednesday. Ava had a tummy ache. The doctor thought it was gastric flu, but she's all right now. She got over it quickly. They do that, children. Ava! Ava!
Colbert followed her into the other room. The woman sat down on the edge of her daughter's bed and buried her face in her hands.
Colbert made a decision then. He found an address book by the phone and the number of Dr. Strum.
When he went back to the woman, she was sitting just as he had left her. He sat down beside her and waited. At first he wasn't sure whether to touch her, but after a while he put his arm around her shoulder. She seemed unaware of his presence.
They sat like this until the doctor arrived.
There are moments and situations that one would like to avoid at all costs, but which can't be put off.
Martin Beck was faced with exactly this kind of situation right now.
Only yesterday he'd been fishing in Motala.
Now he was questioning a woman called Karin Karlsson.
Would you be able to tell us what happened on Friday evening?
We had dinner at about 6.
What did Ava eat?
Meatballs and mashed potatoes. Then ice cream. Strawberry ice cream.
What did she drink?
A glass of milk.
And after dinner, what did you do?
We watched television for a while. Children's programme. Then she went out.
What time was that?
7. Just after 7. It had stopped raining and the news had just started on TV.
Did she go out alone?
Yes. Well, it was quite light and the school holidays had just started, and I told her she could play out until 8. Do you think that was wrong with me? I mean, do you think that was careless?
No, not at all. When did you start looking for her?
At about 8:30. She's got a friend the same age as her. They play together all the time. The other girl's parents don't have a phone, so I went to their apartment.
And what time was that?
By then it was about 9 o'clock. Ava had been there just after 7, but the other girl wasn't allowed out. Her father thought it was too late for little girls to be out alone, but I mean, it was broad daylight. There were people everywhere.
Did your daughter leave there at once?
Yes. She told them she was going to the playground.
Which playground do you think she meant?
The one at Varnatus Park. Well, I went there, but it was empty. So I went home and I stood in the window watching for her. Then I saw a police car stop by the park and an ambulance. I ran out there, but the police said that it was a woman who was hurt.
And did you go home after that?
Yes. I saw the light on in the flat and I was so happy because I thought she'd come home. But it was just me. I'd left it on and then forgotten. So then I called the police and they asked me to come to the station, and they were so nice. They kept saying not to worry. A lot of children get lost or stay out too long, but they usually turn up safely.
What time did you get home again?
It was after 12. I waited all night for someone to ring, but no one did.
It was Monday afternoon, 54 hours after the dead girl had been found in Varnatus Park.
The police had appealed to the public for help through the press, radio and television, and over 300 tips had already come in. Each item of information was registered and examined.
The forensic laboratory dealt with the meagre material from the crime scene. The assault squad went round the neighbourhood knocking on doors. Suspects and possible witnesses were questioned.
All this activity led nowhere.
What's wrong?
I'm scared.
Oh, so am I.
And I don't feel well.
Well, you never feel well.
That's true.
You should give up smoking.
You sound like my wife.
Do you want a coffee?
No. Yeah.
I want a pastry. Do you want a pastry?
No, thank you.
You don't eat enough.
You sound like my wife again. Hello, Martin Beck speaking. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Right, maybe less. Lena! What? It's happened again.
The girl was lying on her back in the grass with both arms bent over her head.
Her face was turned upwards. Blood had trickled down from her nostrils. A skipping rope of transparent yellow plastic was wound tightly around her neck. She was wearing a sleeveless cotton dress. That was yellow too. Her underwear was missing.
She looked about 10 years old.
How long since she was found?
It's 25 minutes since the first car got here.
Who found her?
A couple of small boys.
I'd like to talk to them.
They knew her.
They knew her?
One of them was in the same class.
Oh, Christ. first.
Okay.
The boys told Martin Beck that they had seen her earlier in the day in the playground.
Her name was Annika.
Annika had been playing with two girls of her own age.
One of the girls lived in the same apartment block.
Her name was Lena Oskarsson.
Hello.
Ah, hello. I'm a policeman. Are you Mrs. Oskarsson?
Yes?
My name is Martin Beck. I'd like to have a word with Lena, please.
Oh, yes, of course.
Does she know what's happened to Annika?
Yes, she does.
Can I come in?
Sorry, yes, come in.
Thanks.
Come in. Please sit down. I'll just get Lena.
A little boy was standing in the middle of the living room. He was holding a toy guitar.
Hello.
Hello.
Play guitar?
No, I can't play the guitar. Can you?
I can play guitar.
Lena, this is...
Superintendent Beck.
Superintendent Beck. Hello.
Hello.
He just wants to ask you a few questions.
Beck, that's a funny word.
Bo, let's go and play in your room.
No.
Yes.
No.
Excuse me a minute.
No.
Lena, would you like to come and sit down?
Yeah.
Now, I know you must be very upset, but I need to ask you a couple of things. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You were with Annika earlier today, is that right?
Yes, it was me, Ulla and Annika.
And where did you go?
We went to Tanto Park. I had to take Bo with me.
Do you know what time it was then?
1:30, maybe nearly 2. I'm not sure exactly.
Right, and in Tanto Park, did you meet anyone? Did Annika talk to a man at all?
No, we didn't talk to anyone. The park was quite empty.
So when you got there, what did you do?
Well, first we went on the swings, and then we did some skipping. Then we bought an ice cream.
What did you do after the ice cream?
We just walked about for a while. Annika got a bit cross.
Oh, why?
She wanted to play hide and seek, and we wanted to play hopscotch. And hide and seek's no good when Bo is there. He just ruins it.
I see.
So she just went off on her own.
Did she say where she was going?
No, we just got on with drawing squares for hopscotch. Then we realised Bo was gone too, but we didn't worry, because we thought they were together. Annika was always very nice to Bo.
And then what happened?
Well, Bo came back after a little while.
What about Annika?
We just thought she'd gone home.
Did you see anyone else in the park?
There was a lady with a dog.
Anybody else? Just have a think for a moment.
I'm sure people walked past us, but I didn't really notice them.
There was no private life any longer, no time off, no room for thought of anything but duty and responsibility.
So long as the murderer was still free.
So long as it was light.
So long as there might be a child playing in a park somewhere, then only the investigation mattered.
On the morning of Tuesday, the 13th of June, 1967, the situation was reviewed. The results of the investigation so far were anything but hopeful.
Can't you just use your intuition to catch him?
What?
The famous Martin Beck intuition. Where is it when we need it?
Beck lit a cigarette.
He had no high opinion of Larsson, but then he had no high opinion of himself either.
Right, we've got two possible witnesses.
Oh, really? Who are they?
The 3-year-old, Bo Oskarsson,
Oh, yeah, a 3-year-old boy who can hardly talk.
and the mugger.
Oh, yes, another very useful individual.
Now, has he at any time attacked anyone who didn't have money?
No.
Has he ever gone for someone who could defend themselves?
Nope.
And the protection squad are never around when he attacks someone, which means what? Well, presumably he had to hang around for hours every time before he got his chance.
Or he's had fantastic luck.
No one has luck that fantastic.
Well, we certainly don't.
What time was the last robbery committed?
Well, between 9 and 15.
And the murder?
Between 7 and 8. Why are you asking questions when you already know the answers?
Because the mugger must have seen the girl. And he must have seen the man who killed the girl.
So what are we supposed to do? Appeal to his sense of justice?
Why not?
Well, I think your faith in the underworld is remarkable, not to say naive.
I don't care. I don't care what you think.
I'm just being realistic.
Another child will die. It'll happen again and again unless we do something fast. So use every contact you have. Use the papers, use radio, the TV. Let's find our witness, okay?
That was what happened on Tuesday, the 13th of June, 1967.
On Wednesday, nothing happened at all.
Then on Thursday,
Soon after 11,
a girl,
she couldn't have been more than 20,
in purple stockings and blue eyeshadow,
walked into Larsson's office and announced that she had something to say about the mugger.
What is it you know?
Don't rush me.
But we are in kind of a hurry.
I can just walk straight out of here, you know.
Oh, do you think we'd let you?
It's a free country, isn't it? Democracy, whatever it's called.
Please, can you just tell us why you've come here?
You're the same, you lot. You look at me like I'm dirt. And you're so bloody rude.
Please. Tell us what you know. It might be important. It might help those girls.
Nothing can help those girls. They're dead, aren't they?
All right. But it might help us prevent another murder.
It's not the murder I've come about. It's the other one.
What other one?
The one who did all the muggings.
And you know something about that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, what is it?
Larsson.
What?
You mustn't tell him that I told you this. But he'll guess. He'll know straight away.
What's his name?
Rolf Lundgren.
And where does he live?
I'm not talking to you.
Where does he live?
Markergarten, 57.
And where is he now?
At home.
How big is the flat?
1 room.
How many windows?
2.
Facing the yard?
No, he's got a sea view and there's a bit of City Hall and the Royal Palace too.
Do you know for sure that he's there right now?
Yes.
Oh, what the hell's the matter now?
He's not alone, is he?
No.
Who's he got with him?
Well, who do you think?
Well, should I know?
He's with another woman.
But how do you know that?
Because she just said he's not alone.
Who's going to get him?
We are. I am.
He has 2 submachine guns in the room and another gun, a small one.
What, an automatic?
I don't know.
They sent the girl to sit with Melander in his office. He offered her a tissue and a coffee and she burst out crying again. Meanwhile, Martin Beck and Gunvald Larsson looked at a blueprint of the town plan.
It might be a bit tricky.
Well, how else can we do it? Just imagine a load of guys with submachine guns and tear gas bombs and bulletproof vests running across that yard with him firing like a madman through the windows.
Tear gas through the keyhole?
Well, it's the keys in the lock.
Good point.
You see, I'm not totally thick.
Well, we need a warrant.
Melander can do that.
And plainclothesmen in the street.
Melander can do that as well. You coming with me?
I am.
They parked the car in Roodmansgarten, went round the corner and saw several colleagues on the pavement near the entrance to number 57.
Right, so, I go in with you half a minute behind me.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Martin Beck crossed the street, stood in front of the shop window of Gustav Blondin's jeweller's shop and watched an unusually beautiful grandfather clock tick away 30 seconds.
Then he turned on his heel, crossed the road again and entered the main doorway of number 57.
Not a sound could be heard from inside the apartment, or from Larsson, who was standing quite still to the right of the door.
Beck stood to the left of it with his back to the wall. He barely had time to think before Larsson threw his 15-stone weight against the door.
The mugger was lying on his back in bed with his right arm locked under a woman's neck, But still he managed to spin around, fling himself toward the floor and put his hand to the machine gun under the bed.
Which was when Larsson hit him.
Please! What? Don't hit me again!
Who are you?
Policeman.
Are you? Are you policeman?
Yes.
Right, get the clothes on, both of you.
What's your name?
Me?
Yes, we know his name.
Lisbeth.
How long have you known this man?
2 hours and 25 minutes. What's he done?
Well, he's a sex maniac.
He's not.
No, he's not. Don't listen to Larsson. Right, give your name and address to the policeman in the hall and go home.
Okay.
It was some while before Larsson said anything. He busied himself with the tape recorder, the notepad, and his pencils.
Yeah, we're the one.
What?
Nobody's ever caught me, you know. But you did.
It's nothing I'm proud of, it's just my job. I pick up scum like you every day. I'll have forgotten you by next week.
Of course, this was a rather qualified truth, but the man called Rolf Evert Lundgren seemed to deflate before their eyes.
What's your name?
Rolf Evert Lundgren.
Born?
Yeah.
Born?
January 5th, 1944.
Where?
Yurdaber.
Which parish?
Christ, thought Martin Beck. Larsson's making a meal of it.
1 hour and 45 minutes later, Larsson said,
We're chiefly interested in one or two details.
What are they?
You were in Vanadis Park on the 9th of June and you committed a robbery at 9:15 p.m. What time did you get to the park?
7. Just after, maybe.
Did you notice anyone else in the park during that time?
I saw 2 policemen.
In uniform?
No.
So how do you know they were police?
Because I'd seen them 100 times. They work at the cop shop at Sunbrunnsgatan and drive a red Volvo. Sometimes a green Saab.
What time did you see them?
About 8:30.
Who else did you see?
Couple of teenagers.
What were they doing?
He was feeling her up. She was wearing white knickers. Do you want any more detail?
Are you aware that a murder was committed in the park whilst you were there?
Yeah, of course I'm aware. Everybody's aware.
She was 9 years old. She was wearing a striped t-shirt and a blue skirt.
I didn't kill her.
Did you see her? Did you see this girl?
I think so.
Where was she?
In the playground. By Sveavägen.
What was she doing?
Sitting on a swing.
Did you see anyone else talking to her?
I thought about this a lot.
Thought what? What have you thought? Did you talk to her?
I'm not interested in little girls.
I didn't say you were.
At this moment, Beck looked at Larsson and willed him to keep quiet.
Larsson kept quiet.
The 2 police, they were much later.
What time were the police there?
8:30.
8:30. And the 2 teenagers were in the park for at least half an hour, from 7:45 until 7:15. But when they arrived, the little girl wasn't there. She wasn't in the playground either when they came or when they left.
So she was in the playground at 7:15 but had gone by 7:45?
Yeah. Yes. That must be right.
Right. And you say you saw roughly 10 people. Who else did you see?
Bloke with a dog. I followed him. He was only in the park about 10 minutes. The girl was there when he arrived and gone when he'd left.
So who else did you see?
2 tramps with a bottle. But that was later, when the teenagers were there. I saw another tramp too. He must have come up the steps. Hell of a steep climb, coming up that way and then just going back down again.
What, he went back down again?
Yeah, went out in the Sveavägen.
And when did you see him?
Soon after the man with the dog.
It dawned on them one by one what Lundgren had just said.
Christ.
So to sum up, a man appeared from the direction of the water tower and went out into Sveavägen. You assumed that he'd climbed the steps behind the water tower and then come down to the park in the direction of Sveavägen. But this man could just as well have come from the direction of Sveavägen 15 minutes earlier while you were shadowing the man with the dog.
Yes.
He could have passed the playground and lured the girl up to the water tower. He could have killed her there and been on the way back when you saw him.
Yeah.
Did you see him up close?
He went right past me.
What did he look like?
He wasn't tall or short. A bit shabby, big nose.
What was he wearing?
White shirt, no tie, dark trousers, grey, maybe brown.
Hair?
Thin, brushed back.
Coat?
No. No jacket or coat or anything.
Did you see the colour of his eyes?
I can't remember. Probably they were blue.
And how old do you think he was?
40 something.
What about his shoes?
What about his shoes?
What colour?
Those ordinary shoes. Black. The tramps usually have.
Right, so to sum up, man of 40, normal build, average height with thin hair, brush back, big nose, blue eyes, white shirt, brown or grey trousers, black shoes.
Martin Beck was vaguely reminded of something, but the thought vanished as soon as it came.
Just think. I saw the bastard.
Yes, you did. You were also very near to killing several people yourself, and as recently as 12 hours ago, you were ready to shoot both me and Detective Larsson.
That's different. That's a completely different situation.
I agree. It is different, but it's still murder.
But you're not dead. You're alive. You're fine.
Yeah, no thanks to you.
After they took Lundgren away, Larsson asked Beck,
Do you think it took a long time?
Yes, I do.
You've got to go carefully, start at the beginning. Establish a confidential relationship.
Still took a hell of a long time.
There was something else at the back of Martin Beck's mind, but he didn't know what it was.
He drove home,
Drank a cup of coffee,
and went to bed,
and lay awake in the dark.
thinking.
Of something.
Martin Beck slept fitfully and had one nightmare after another. He woke with a dull ache in his stomach. At breakfast he had a terrible row with his wife about something so trivial that he'd already forgotten what it was by the time he shut the front door 5 minutes later.
Now he was on his way to the Oscarsons' house to speak to the small boy Bo.
This 3-year-old boy was the last person to see the second murdered girl.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, please come in.
Thanks. I really came to ask whether your son has by any chance said anything to you that might have some bearing on the case.
Oh.
Well, according to Lena, he disappeared for a while and there's nothing to indicate he didn't follow Annika. He might even have seen the man.
But he's so little.
I know, but I'd like to try anyway. He might just have seen something. If we could get him to remember that day...
Perhaps Lena can get him to remember.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that would be great. If we could just try.
Just wait a second.
Thanks.
Bo? Lena, can you come in here? Lena, you remember Inspector Beck, don't you?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. Who's that man?
This is Mr. Beck.
Beck.
Lena, Inspector Beck wants to talk to Bo about that day. Can you try and help Bo remember?
I can try.
Have you been to the park today?
No park. Do you remember last time we went to the park and we bought ice cream? Do you remember? Chocolate. Chocolate ice cream, yes. Chocolate ice cream. And we played hopscotch. Do you remember? Bo and Annika could not play hopscotch. What did Bo and Annika play? Hide and seek. Man gave me ticker. A man gave you a ticker? Ticker, yes.
What's a ticker?
I don't know.
What did Bo and Annika and the man do?
Annika go. Man go. Annika gone.
Where did she go?
But the boy became distracted by his toy car and didn't answer.
Do you think this man was the murderer?
Well, possibly. Quite possibly.
God.
Do you think we might be able to get a description from Bo?
Not really. I mean, he's so little. Unless there was something special about the man, if he was wearing a uniform or something.
Well, perhaps if you speak to him later, and if you talk to him alone.
OK, I'll try. I'll definitely try.
Great.
Where are you going?
Back to work?
Like Daddy?
Yes.
To earn money?
Yes.
I have lots of money.
Do you?
I'll show you.
The boy went to his jacket, which was hanging on a low hook in the hall. Several small coins fell from his pocket.
See? Lots of money. And a ticker. A ticker.
Oh, can I see?
Ticker.
Martin Beck looked at the small piece of paper in the boy's hand. It was an ordinary underground ticket.
Where's Martin?
Out interrogating infants.
What?
The 3-year-old witness.
Oh. What's that?
A summary from the psychologists about the murderer.
I suppose they think it's all because of his unrequited love of a wheelbarrow. Is it any help?
Well, they say he might have a clean police record. He might even have lived a long time without giving any expression at all as to his inclinations. But if on a sudden impulse he commits a rape or a sex murder, the only way he can get any satisfaction in the future is to commit more rapes and more murders. Which fits, doesn't it?
Does it?
Well, first we have one murder and then very quickly we have another.
We don't even know if it's the same man.
Of course it's the same man.
Well, the first one could have inspired someone to commit the second one.
It's extremely unlikely, and if what they're saying here is right, he's just going to keep on doing it.
Killing people.
Killing young girls. Until we catch him.
In order to do this, one journalist had written that they would have to be lucky.
But Colbert knew this was an erroneous line of reasoning.
He also knew that when the murderer was caught, it would look like luck and would be regarded by many as a fluke.
But it was a case of giving luck a helping hand, of making the net of circumstance as finely meshed as possible.
And while Colbert was thinking this, Martin Beck walked into the office with an underground ticket.
So the ticket was bought on the 12th of June, sold by a ticket cashier at the Northern Barrier at Rådmansgatan. In order to go through that barrier, you have to go down through one of the 2 entrances on either side of Sveavägen. So if the person who bought the ticket at Rådmansgatan was on the way to Tantor Park, he would have had to change trains at either Tea Centralen, Gamlestan or Slussen. In that case, he would come to Zinkensdamm.
From there it would be about a 5-minute walk to where we found the girl.
The journey started between 1:30 and 1:45 and should have taken about 25 minutes. So between 5 minutes to 2 and 10 minutes past, he could have arrived at Tantor Park. And according to the doctor, the girl probably died between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, possibly a bit earlier.
It fits.
If he went straight there.
But what does it tell us? That he rides on the underground and kills little girls. It doesn't tell us anything else.
Sometimes Beck wished that Colbert was not quite so talkative. He tried to hold on to a thought that flashed past. Had Colbert kept quiet, he might have succeeded. Now the moment was gone.
Martin Beck walked along the pavement reading a newspaper.
On the front page was an identikit picture of the girl's murderer, drawn by the police artist from the meagre description given by the mugger and chief witness, Rolf Evert Lundgren. Nobody was satisfied with it, least of all the artist and Rolf Evert Lundgren.
God.
Beneath the picture was an incomplete description.
Beck read the short text.
Held his breath.
He knew. Suddenly, he knew.
The description.
Larson's summary of the description Lundgren had given was almost a word-for-word repetition of something he had said on the phone 2 weeks ago.
Do you remember that woman who called up the same day I went to Motala? She wanted to report a man who was standing on a balcony on the other side of the street.
Yeah, I do. Crazy old back.
Yeah, do you remember how she described him?
No, why?
Well, think really hard.
Why?
Just think, for God's sake.
Okay. Can't really remember. I think she said he was ordinary looking. His shirt was undone. Yeah, and she said he had grey-blue eyes, and then I asked her how she could see that, and she said she was looking through binoculars. Why is that important?
Because when you repeated the woman's description, you repeated the exact same wording as when you summed up Lundgren's description of the man in Vanadis Park. Thin hair brushed back, big nose, average height, white unbuttoned shirt, brown trousers, blue-grey eyes.
It's not a very unusual description.
No, it's not much to go on, I know that, but we've got nothing else, no leads, nothing. What else did she say?
Well, that's all she said. She wanted to report a man standing on the balcony opposite. She thought it was strange.
Why did she think it was strange?
Well, because he was nearly always standing there at night, too.
Where did she live?
I don't know. I don't even know if she told me.
Can you remember her name?
Mrs. Miss something.
Well, didn't you write it down somewhere? I saw you write it down.
I don't keep all my notes, though. Do you? Do you keep all your notes?
Where's Melander?
At home, asleep. He was working all night.
Well, call him. Tell him to come in. He can sleep when this is over.
Larson was sat at his desk.
Beck stood with one arm on the filing cabinet.
Colbert was perched on a windowsill listening. He'd often been present when Melander recapitulated the course of events, and he always felt like he was witnessing a séance.
When I came in, you were standing exactly where you're standing now, and Larson sat where he's sitting now. The phone rang, and Larson answered. He said his name, and she said hers.
Do you remember whether he wrote the name down?
I remember he had a pen in his hand. Yes, he must have made a note of it.
Do you remember whether he asked for her address?
No, I don't think he did.
No, I don't think I did.
You said something about a cat.
Yeah, that's right. I thought she said she had a cat on her balcony.
You asked her to describe the man, and I remember you made notes at the same time as you repeated what she said.
But if I made notes, then I would have written them on this block and then thrown them away.
Funny for a guy to stand on his balcony day and night. Maybe he'd been pensioned off and had nothing else to do.
No, it wasn't that, because she said he's a young man too, can't be over 40, nothing better to do than staring. Those were her very words, I'd forgotten.
Well, so that fits Lundgren's description too. Are you sure you haven't got those notes?
You had the pen in your hand, and as you picked up the notepad, you moved the telephone directory aside. The telephone directory!
What telephone directory?
A telephone directory was lying open on your desk. Didn't you write in that?
Well, it's possible. Hell of a job, though, looking through all of them.
Well, you don't have to. If you wrote anything, and I think you did, then it wasn't in your telephone directory. It was in mine. Wait a second.
That's right. Melander came into the room from next door with a telephone directory in his hands. He gave it to me and showed me the name.
What was the name?
And I put the telephone directory down on Larsson's desk.
What was the name?
Arvid Jonsson.
Is it there?
Nothing on that page.
Right, give me the book.
Beck started at the beginning and looked through the directory carefully, page by page. The others stood around him in silence, waiting.
4 men staring at the telephone directory.
When Beck reached page 1082...
There.
Andersson.
Is that it?
Well, it might be Andresen. No, I think it's Anderson.
There are 390,000 people in Sweden called Anderson.
How can you know something like that?
How the hell do we find her?
We use the press, radio and television.
Okay.
It might be very straightforward.
They did make use of the press, radio and television.
It wasn't straightforward.
By 11 on Monday morning, there were still no developments, and Beck began to have doubts.
Wherever she lives, it must be somewhere fairly central.
Well, must it?
No, of course not really, but it...
But what?
I don't know.
Is your intuition telling you something? What? I'm just asking. I was being serious.
The underground ticket, which was bought at Rådmansgatan.
And which is not proved to have any connection with either of the murders or the murderer.
It was bought at Rådmansgatan and only used in one direction. The murderer kept it because he intended using it for the return journey. He took the subway from Rådmansgatan to Zinkensdamm and walked the rest of the way to Tanto Park.
Mere speculation.
But it hangs together, logically.
Well, just about.
And the first murder was committed in Varnadis Park. It's all linked up with that part of the city. Varnadis Park, Rådmansgatan, the whole area north of Odengarden.
It's pure guesswork.
Well, the theory of probability.
You can call it that too if you like.
Right, let's start in the 5th and 9th districts. Put a couple of men on to calling everyone up by the name of Andersson and put a couple more on door to door.
It was an awful Monday.
That great detective, otherwise known as the general public, who had seemed less busy during Sunday, suddenly swung into action on Monday afternoon.
The central office was swamped with calls from people who thought they knew something, lunatics who wanted to confess, and other kinds of time wasters.
Everything had to be noted down and checked.
The material grew and grew.
And in all cases was utterly useless.
Parks and wooded areas swarmed with policemen.
As far as 100 men can be said to swarm.
And on top of this came the search for someone called Andersson.
And the whole time, fear was lurking in the background.
Many parents called the police about children who had not been away from home for longer than 15 or 20 minutes.
It was over a week now since the last murder.
At around 10 o'clock the following morning,
Tuesday the 20th of June 1967, to be precise,
police officer Kvist,
an ambitious young man with dreams of being the next commissioner,
went into a small bakery on Sveavägen.
Kvist inhaled the smell of fresh baked bread and thought that these small bakeries were becoming rare.
Will that be all?
Yes, that's it, thanks.
No cream today.
Not today, thank you.
Police officer Kvist opened the door for the woman who was quite elderly and quite fat.
Oh, thank you, young man.
You're welcome.
See you later, Mrs. Anderson, love. Hello, can I help you?
Sorry, did you say Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Anderson, yes.
Sorry, excuse me. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes?
Can I take you shopping?
Oh, thank you.
Was it you who called the police on the 2nd of June?
The 2nd of June? Well, I did make a phone call to the police, yes. I can't remember which day exactly. Might have been the 2nd. I spoke to a detective and he was very rude. I only wanted to report something.
What was it? What was it you wanted to report?
Well, there was this man standing on his balcony.
Mrs. Anderson regarded Martin Beck and Lennart Kohlberg critically through the crack in the door.
Was it either of you that I spoke to when I called?
No, you spoke to Detective Inspector Larson.
He was very rude.
I'm very sorry about that.
He's a very rude man. He's rude to everyone. You mustn't take it personally.
Can we come in, please?
Mrs. Anderson insisted on making fresh coffee before they sat down to chat.
Do tell me now. Has anything happened about that man opposite?
Have you been reading the papers, Mrs. Anderson?
No. When I'm in the country, I never read the papers, and I only came home last night. Have a cake, please, gentlemen, or a biscuit?
Oh, no, thank you.
Yes, please.
Oh, those are almonds. Do you like almonds?
Oh, I love almonds.
I love almonds too, but my mother hated them.
Would you mind showing us that balcony?
Oh, yes. Oh. It's the third balcony from the bottom, beside that window with no curtains. Do you like the biscuits?
They're lovely.
They're from the bakery downstairs.
Oh, they're very nice.
Oh, I have another one.
Thank you.
Have you seen the man recently?
No, not for some time. But you see, I was in the country over the weekend. But before that, I didn't see him for a few days.
You see this drawing?
Oh, yes.
Did he look anything like this?
Well, it's not a very good drawing, but yes, there's a likeness, definitely.
Was he always alone, the man?
Well, I never saw him with anyone else. Sometimes I felt almost sorry for him. It's always dark in the apartment, and when he's not standing on the balcony, he sits at the kitchen window. He does that when it rains.
Do you remember when you last saw him?
It must be more than a week. Last Friday. I had a woman in to clean my windows, and he was standing there in the morning. But not in the evening, and not the next day. Yes, that's right. I haven't seen him since then.
So you haven't seen him since Friday, the 9th of June?
The 9th. That's correct.
When they came out of the main entrance, Kohlberg, law-abiding Kohlberg, started walking towards the pedestrian crossing 50 yards away.
But Beck grabbed his arm and they hurried across the road towards the block of flats on the other side.
Beck walked up the 3 flights.
Kohlberg took the lift.
They met outside the door.
There was a tarnished white metal nameplate engraved with the letters I. Fransson.
Doorbell doesn't work. Go and get a warrant.
Okay. 15 minutes later, Kohlberg was back with a warrant and someone to open the door.
That's a post.
Yeah.
Ingemund Fransson.
The flat was in no way dilapidated or neglected, yet somehow it seemed shabby. It was also very bare.
Doesn't seem to have been home for a while.
A rapid and superficial search of the flat revealed little more about Ingemund Fransson until Martin Beck went into the bedroom.
The bed did not look as if it had been slept in.
But one pillow was squashed into a lump.
He hasn't touched his post since Saturday the 10th. What's the date of that paper? 8th of June. What is it?
Martin Beck stretched out his right arm, took hold of one corner of the pillowcase and lifted the pillow.
Under it lay a pair of little girl's pants.
They stood quite still in the stale, bleak room, listening to the traffic and their own breathing.
Okay. We'll seal off the flat, alert the technical squad. Okay.
3 hours later, the time was 2 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday the 20th of June, and they knew a great deal about Ingmon Fransson.
He had lived in the flat in Sveavägen since 1948.
He'd been employed as a gardening labourer until 1956.
He was pensioned off 2 years later as unfit to work.
The neighbours said he spoke little, but was a gentle, friendly man.
Seemed the sort of man you could trust.
No one had seen him for 8 days.
So we've got everything but his photo.
Expect one will turn up.
Martin Beck speaking. Where? We're on our way.
What is it?
He's in South Jörgedal. Several people have seen him.
South Jörgedal is an island, and to get there one must cross one of 2 bridges.
Both bridges were cordoned off by patrol cars.
And about 100 men had been sent out to cover the area.
He can't escape.
Don't be so sure.
Where's he going to go?
We can't keep the area cordoned off forever, and if he managed to get off the island...
He didn't have time unless he was in a car.
Why not? He could have stolen one.
Car 97 here. We found him, over.
Where are you?
Biskopsudden, above the boat club.
We'll be right there.
It took them 3 minutes to drive to Biskopsudden. 3 radio cars, a motorcycle policeman and several plain-clothed officers were standing in the road. Between the cars and surrounded by police stood a man.
The man was thin and somewhat shorter than Martin Beck.
He had a big nose and blue-grey eyes.
And sandy hair that was brushed back.
What? What is all this?
What's your name?
Engström. Wilhelm Engström.
Can you prove it?
My driver's license is in my other coat.
Where have you been in the last 2 weeks?
At home.
Your name is Fransson, isn't it?
No, it's Engström.
What were you doing in Jörgedal?
I was just taking a walk.
Where do you live?
Ondergatan.
What were you doing last Tuesday?
I was at home. I've been ill. I'm okay now.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a butcher.
Okay, let's try again.
Try what again?
What's your name?
I told you.
What is your name?
Wilhelm Engström.
Police officers Christiansson and Kvant did not even belong to the Stockholm police.
They were radio police in Solna, outside the city boundary, and knew very little about the murders, apart from what they'd read in the papers or heard on the radio.
Thank God they got him. The park murderer. I mean, thank God.
Just for once, could you not repeat yourself every 20 seconds?
It's not easy.
It is easy, you just stop talking.
I don't find it easy to stop talking.
Had the murderer not been surrounded at Jörgedal, Christiansson would probably have swung up to the right and had a look at the woods, but there was no reason to now.
Can you lend me 20 krona?
Why have you never got any money?
I don't know. Or can you lend it me or not?
Sure.
They came to the end of Karlbergstrand, but instead of turning up towards Sundbyberg Road,
which was the shortest way to the police station,
Christiansson drove straight on and along Huvudsta Alley, a road seldom used by anybody nowadays.
Later, many people were to ask him why he took that particular road.
But it was a question he couldn't answer.
Because he didn't know.
Oh, stop a minute.
Why?
Nature calls.
We're nearly there.
When a man's got to go, a man's got to go.
Most men can wait 5 minutes.
Most men don't need to borrow 20 krona every other day of the week.
Kvant walked over to some low bushes.
He undid his trousers and saw a man standing 5 or 6 yards away.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Evidently on the same business as himself.
Only Only when police officer Cavant was walking back to the car did it strike him.
That bloke looks just like... What? There's a bloke over there. He looks just like...
What? Where are you going? Cavant?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yes?
What are you doing here?
Nothing.
What's your name?
Ingemund Fransson.
Christensen?
Yeah?
This is Ingemund Fransson.
Christ.
Did you kill those girls?
Yes.
Christ.
I think you better come with us.
Ow!
Excuse me. I'm looking for my daughter. She was just here a minute ago, and now...
She's sitting over there. She's all right. I saw her just a few minutes ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please don't grip so hard.
What?
You're hurting my arm.
Shut up.
Martin Beck was still standing at Biskop Sudden in Jörgården.
Martin! Martin! What? They've got him. Fransson. No doubt whatsoever he was caught red-handed. He hasn't killed someone else. No. They got there just in time. Oh, thank God. It's over, Martin. Thank God. It's over. Yes.
In The Man on the Balcony by Maj Sjöwall Per Wahlöö, Martin Beck was played by Stephen McIntosh and Lennart Kohlberg by Neil Pearson. Larsson was played by Ralph Ineson, Melander by Adrian Scarborough, Corinne Carlson, Beth Goddard, Lena Oskarsson, Katie Angelou, Ingrid Oskarsson, Susie Riddell, and Bo Oskarsson, Greta Dudgeon. Mrs. Anderson was played by Christine Absalom. Engstrom by Patrick Brennan, Gvant, Sam Alexander, Christiansson, Don Gillet, Fransson, Robert Blythe, and Lundgren, Joe Sims. Gvist was played by Harry Livingston, Lisbeth by Amaka Okafor, and Girl by Kelly Shirley. The Man on the Balcony was translated by Alan Blair and dramatised for radio by Katie Hims. The director was Mary Peate.
This video was uploaded to the channel Thinking Out Louder. Please like, comment and subscribe to the Thinking Out Louder channel. Thank you.